Seth Painter here with the Panagora Pharma Customer Experience Chatcast. Panagora, known primarily for live events, chatting with all of your favorite pharma folks about all things CX. Joining us is Corinne Yaouanq-Lyngberg from Novo. Say hello, Corinne.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for having me today, Seth.
Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. So I head up the Omnichannel Strategic Enablement team at Novo Nordisk. So you may ask, what does that mean? Ultimately, the team is responsible for all the different technologies and platforms across Omnichannel to deliver a certain level of customer experience to our patients, as well as HCPs and health systems. And that goes across websites management and ecosystem, interactive visual aids for our sales representatives, field triggered email, any other additional digital solutions we may be able to provide to the patients via our HCPs, or other types of ancillary platforms. Again, all that in order to create a digital experience and provide additional information to the customers. The last channel I'll mention is I also have accountability for the EHR channel, so electronic health records.
So that's it?
Pretty much.
Do you have a disclaimer for us?
Of course I do. Thanks for asking. Yes, so all the opinions and observation and comments that I may mention today are that of my own and not representative necessarily of that of my company.
Awesome. So let's jump right in. You mentioned customer experience, so you're in the right place. But in a broad sense, Corinne, what does customer experience mean to you?
Yeah, well, it's really a couple words, really, I think, to define customer experience. For me, it's really that perception of our company, our name, our products, potentially brands, by the customers. And that is coming and stemming from all sort of different interactions they may have with us. And I like to make sure that people realize that customer experience is forged from anywhere from a video that they may see on YouTube, all the way to calling a call center if their product has been broken along the way. So it's really, really any point of time you touch our brands or company.
So then more specifically, how does customer experience layer on to what you're currently doing or your current role? You did mention some of the various platforms or channels that you're working with. It sounds like that's a lot of ground to cover.
Yes. So we are really good, I think, at enabling platforms and technologies that will provide information and specific messages to either patients or physicians. So we are really good at managing them independently to one another. And I think even together with our internal partners and marketers, I would say, what we're really trying to get to is to put all of these channels together and to ask ourselves, what is that customer journey looking like if you were to enable them all? Or should you maybe look at whatever a customer's preference is about? And so, yes, we have a lot of tools and we have a lot of technology. And now it's about weaving it all together based upon the insights that customers are giving us, and then creating this one customer experience, right? And I think we aspire to have one journey per customer. I think that we still have a little bit of work to do to get really to that full orchestration of our multi-channel marketing.
So when you think about the all the confluence of those channels and the personalization that you mentioned with individual customers, and trying to create one sort of unified experience, that's always going to be a work in progress. And do you think that there's any pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? Do you think we could ever get to a point where you have successfully taken into account all the different factors, channels, etc., to bring about the ultimate customer experience? Like, can you reach a customer experience nirvana?
Well, we have to ask the customers for that, I think. First,
it's kind of a loaded question, but I mean, in general,
yes,
you're trying to get close.
Yeah, no, I think we can. We just have to realize that customer expectations evolve and technology evolves. So to get to the nirvana may look differently in 2 years from now. It was looking differently before COVID. So that is ultimately what we, together with the marketing team, need to just keep on thinking about and planning for. I think we got to a point where we have starting the digital transformation at Novo Nordisk. We are now putting enough efforts and resources behind all of these channels so we can be where the customer is and we can offer our information where the customer ultimately want to get that information. But I think, still, I have to admit that the nirvana of customer experience may not be quite there. If you compare the healthcare industry over to maybe more of the consumer type industry, like you would say transportation, or the food industry, for instance. I think that that's where pharma needs to come along, healthcare in general needs to come along, and our patients and physicians are themselves consumers and they have expectations, whether it's about their health or their well-being, or it's about what they're going to buy, at the grocery store. So that's where we need to start merging, I think, that those expectations and that experience. I think if we want to get closer to that nirvana, as you were mentioning before.
So I think talking about merging, customer experience is often associated with digital, and digital with customer experience. Is customer experience digital? Is digital customer experience? Can they be separated? Should they be separated?
No, I look at digital as a component of customer experience. I think that internally we've talked a lot about the learnings since COVID with our sales representatives. We've been trying to augment the capabilities and make them much more digitally savvy, I guess, for lack of a better word. And they are realizing that the healthcare providers themselves and the patients are not also asking for digital tools, but there will be always a need for human interaction. And we've seen it already, with just looking at the latest statistics around telehealth. Telehealth had to spike during COVID. There was a need and it happened. Healthcare providers realized that they could provide some level of care via that channel. Patients realized they could also do it. But I think that we've already seen the trend coming down. So that what it proves is that some of the patients have just postponed their visits and now they're going back to seeing physicians face to face because that human connection will always be there. And it's the same thing with our sales representatives. It's going to be the same thing in having a voice in our call center. I don't think we're going to see that being eliminated anytime soon.
So you work with a lot of different channels, a lot of different tactics, platforms, etc. What's your favorite digital channel right now, or what have you seen to be the most productive or worthwhile?
I'm going to answer in two ways. I'm going to answer in one for myself. So as a consumer, I would say my favorite is SMS. And that's just because I am a busy individual and I would love the SMS to serve as almost like my personal administrative assistant, right? You get quick information, the right time, sometimes to remind you of what you need to do. And I think those can be really well serving our diabetes, population who are looking to get reminders about taking their medication, for instance. But I think professionally, where I get the most excitement and optimism, it's really from the EHR channel, because it's very untapped. It's still kind of unstructured. There's a lot of opportunities to make it much more nimble and something you can really personalize. So if you have a health system with very specific objectives, I think you can build that channel where pharma and health system together can really partner and deliver a customer experience without having HCPs leave their workflows. So that, I think that's where we can make the biggest
and 10 years ago, 5 years ago, people would have said that's impossible or illegal
maybe,
or unethical or something along those lines. Good stuff. So when you think about what's next for customer experience, what's coming down the pike, or what have we done really well, or where are some areas where we could improve?
So I think of it in terms of three potential areas where I would love for the industry really to get better at, and it's across pharmaceutical as well as healthcare. One is around this concept of empowered patient. And I think now people are talking much more about patients becoming consumers than just staying patients. And that's the narrative. Needs to change from management of illnesses to wellness and health. And we also in the industry, we need to do the same thing. We need to approach patient, and we need to approach the way we communicate to customers with that in mind. And I think that's going to be very powerful, because now really patient outcome is going to be at the center of the discussions, not just about brands, not just about treatment. So that is something I think that we're all going to have to work towards having similar approaches and messaging. The other thing is then number 2 is getting to a personalization of content. So that's becoming pretty mainstream, I would say, in the industry. But how do we get it done? It's still quite problematic sometimes, not just because of the technologies may not always work, but even when you take care of the technology per se, then it's about getting alignment internally with your stakeholders and having, again, an agreement on what is that one customer journey and how do we personalize the touch points by listening to your customer feedback. So that's number 2. And I would say that leads to number 3. So how do we know, based on where our customers are now, what is that next best engagement? And people call it next best action. I like to just call it the next engagement, because there's a lot, again, that can be done. We have pretty solid advanced analytics capabilities, but I yet to see really what that looks like in reality. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of those capabilities come to life and really assemble that personalization of content and that cadence of content that ultimately, again, will serve patients for their own health and, of course, us as an industry.
And all 3 of those things that you mentioned, we're well on our way, but I really think we've only seen basically the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we can do with those and how they're going to affect customer experience. So thank you, Corinne. Will we see you in September at the Pantagora CX Summit?
I'm hoping so. I'm planning on. So thanks for having me, and thanks for the invitation.
Yes, and thank you.